Welcome to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. As always, we are the Joe Bidens.
Welcome to the Grand Solar Minimum
You're
channel.
doing really good tonight. Oh, look at that, Jake.
I'm telling you right now, we are worse than Joe Biden gaffes. Way worse. It is absolutely ridiculous. Again, thank you folks for joining us tonight. That was a Diet Root Beer, don't worry. But my gosh.
People are already concerned
that's
for you, Jake.
Right. That's how you start a show, though, right?
The intro was like choppy. I don't know why
Oh
it's doing
man,
that.
the intro messed up. I couldn't find the call-in show intro, which was another 2 minutes.
That's when you just start talking, Jake. They just want to hear your voice.
Yeah. So anyway, welcome to the evening edition of. Well, actually, this is our call-in show.
I'm going to open up the line, so I'm going to be away for a moment, Jake.
I'll go ahead and talk about a little bit of space weather that we've seen this week, and actually its lack thereof, as no sunspots, 33 days in a row. I know there were some folks who were concerned about possibility that solar minimum was ending because we had 18 days in January with a sunspot. Well, that has changed since then. So, deep minimum conditions continue. KP indice is at 0 right now, currently with a 24-hour max of 2. And we are waiting now for the effects from a coronal hole that was Earth-facing a couple days ago. Well, that will now be possibly affecting the magnetic field sometime tomorrow. And also, we have the possibility of dealing with a minor impact from a very, very weak CME, also from the sun. So not a lot going on. Earthquakes, volcanoes. We did have the 35,000 foot eruption at Merapi. Other than that, we haven't really seen anything huge that we can speak on as far as seismic or volcanic activity. Weather has been kind of average right now. Some folks in the Middle East still seeing some record snows and cold, but I think what really is dominating the attention of America right now is lots of things concerning the markets and the election coming up, and then of course coronavirus. That is becoming a more and more talked about issue right now. And I briefly touched this a few broadcasts ago. Those of you who are already following this channel, the majority of you already prep. You already store things. So some of you are okay and ready for this. If you have to be told, hey, listen, we want you to stay home for a couple weeks. Some of you out there are probably, yeah, okay, we got this covered. We got water, we got food, we got this, we got medicine. 2 weeks, maybe 3. Okay. And then there's others out there who might be on the fence, half and half, not sure about if it's real, if it's spreading like it's being told. So some folks may procrastinate, which is understandable because there's so many rabbit holes out there. And this particular virus situation actually is one of those things where some folks on YouTube are trying to make it as if it's a hoax, as if this is just the next fear to sell on the old YouTube to make money. And I get that. I understand that concern. Some of these channels that are calling out the fear and calling it, just fear for profit. They've been through this before with other rabbit holes that we see on YouTube. There's Flat Earth, there's Planet X theories, there's all kinds of things. So I get it. I understand why some people may not be taking this as serious as they should. They've got mainstream media telling you that it's okay, it's not that serious, but then you read between the lines with the markets and the amount of cases that we're seeing all over the world now, and Italy nationwide closed its schools for a few weeks. I mean, if it wasn't that serious, have we ever lived in a time, Mari, where an entire nation shut down its schools because of a virus?
Not that I recall. This is just, it makes me speechless. And the people that play this down as no big deal, I just don't get. I am sorry. I don't get why this isn't a big deal. And you are a good anchor for me, because I think I'm freaking out a lot more about this than you. You're sort of calm, cool, and collected. And I'm like, I look at my country and I'm very just jaded that I'm looking at this right now. And I just know this is going to be one big red dot, like the whole country, because of something simple like testing. That's what bothers me.
Well, and here's some things that we can all need to refresh in our minds. Is this something serious? Absolutely. It spreads very fast. Is there really anything that any of our governments could have done to prevent this? I'm not so sure about that. This virus has spread so fast and so quickly. That's why when we had 226 cases in China, 33 million people were put in quarantine.
Well, it was just 2 weeks ago we saw 2 cases in Italy, and look at it now.
It's well over 4,500 people.
4,600 right now.
What I guess what I want to say is that we all know the risks of this. It's targeting people who are elderly, who have underlying health conditions. We are not seeing reports of women and children being affected as severely as most men at 49 to 80 years old are exposed. Now, I'm not saying there hasn't been a few deaths. I've seen some deaths of 36-year-old men. A 22-year-old died of this. And so there are significant circumstances in each case. But like any other virus, and what's being feared now is being confirmed, is that there are 2 strains of this going around. Now, we saw a lot of scary images on social media about China. People falling over in the middle of the streets, laying on sidewalks, laying down in malls, hospital floors covered with people with no beds. And this was back when we were being told there was only 226 cases. So I guess what I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to show it up. I'm just trying to say we need to look at the focus here, is that a lot has happened since we started learning about the spread of this. Now, the president did stop travel from China back in early February 3rd, if I'm not to be exact. So we're just now seeing the cases really starting to pop up a little bit more with more steam. So I give credit that this probably could have happened a month ago if certain measures weren't already in place. Now, the testing is a big problem. But I also understand that the testing is limited because they don't, have the funds until today, test reliability, and the amount of time that it takes. So they had to be choosy about the people they were testing for this virus. I can't imagine the logistics that's involved in running a country and its medical system, and when pandemic happens. I don't think anybody really, if everybody just stopped and just pumped the brakes for a minute and backed up and realized what a giant mess this would be for anybody. And then you have to just roll with the punches, be as best as prepared as you can be, wash your hands. If you're sick, stay home. If you're feeling severe symptoms, call the emergency room, let them know you're coming in, that you feel like you might have something that is going around. They will test you. I talked to a health advisor today, a health official actually, and she instructed me that if my symptoms of even minor symptoms, a runny nose, a minor cough, no fever, a little bit of fatigue, I was told that if it felt like it was getting worse, to just go ahead and start staying home now if I feel any worse in the coming hours. Thankfully, I don't. But I thought that was interesting that she did a phone analysis with me. And it's like, how can you really be sure? So I get the scare from both sides. I understand the folks who are really freaked out about this, and I'm not judging you. But I also get the other side, like people like me. Now, what I don't get are some of these TV personalities and politicians who act like this is not a big deal. Everybody needs to chill out. That part I don't get, and I don't understand, because they expect people, to be calm about that to a degree. But look, we have the internet. We have access to some, what we might think of maybe a glimpse of real-time data. So we see it for ourselves, folks. And when I hear a politician or someone of wealth or a TV personality tell me just to calm down, I mean, think about it. We're average, everyday people. We work every day. We live paycheck to paycheck like most Americans. We put a little bit back when we can. We raise 2 children. We don't have the extra income to go out and prep, unlike these people who make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year or even millions, who sit there and say, don't worry. And it's easy for them to say that because they can go on Amazon right now and spend tens of thousands of dollars on prep and food and medicine and not have a care in the world. But folks like us, we're nickel and diamond, and a lot of you out there know how to grow and can, so you're only benefiting yourself and saving the money on other dry foods that you could store for long periods of time. So I guess what I'm saying overall is that, does this scare me? Yes. But are we doing any good as citizens of this country by fueling the panic and the fear, when now it's time to stop worrying about it and let's really dig in and get ready for it and make sure that we are ready for this? Because look, guys, this is not fear porn. This is we're talking out of facts right now. The way this is spreading here in the United States is very reminiscent of how it started in Wuhan. So the CDC warned us a week ago. It's not a matter of if, but when. That time is coming. And all we can do now is make sure that we are protected the best that we can and make sure that our immediate homes and family are prepared for this. Because now we're going to have to be the rocks for our family. We're going to have to be the ones that stand up strong to this and be vigilant. The good news is that people will survive this, as 57,000 have already recovered. But you still have to look at that 3,400 deaths, Mari, and that's 3 point. That's where they're talking about the 3.4%.
Oh, this is just the tip of the iceberg with it as well.
Even if you added 2 million to this number, we know there's rumors in China that had 100 and something thousand. Yeah. So I mean, the death rates would still be lined up with that 3.4 or higher.
It definitely, I don't know where the new research is coming from, where it's like 0.1 or like 0.01 or something. I've seen some, I very suspect claims. The concerning part, I think, what I'm most fearful of, I mean, we all have to expect that, the weak will suffer the most from this. And the hard part that we have to brace for is to see those hard times unfold. Most people will be okay. Most people will get through this fine. That's a fact. But the hard part is there's going to be a lot of loss. And they are downplaying it. It's simple just to sort of look at the math. They're saying 75% of the population. Is that what the latest number is, or 70?
70% of the population will get this disease.
So you're talking. You take the population and then look at how many would be affected by 70%, and then you look at the mortality rate, and it is a lot, but in comparison, it is a small percentage still in the grand scope of the full population. So
Adam,
it's tough. I just would ask people to prepare the best they can and just be smart about it. Wash your hands. If you feel like wearing masks, wear a mask. If you don't feel like masks are good, don't. Do what you feel is right. I'm not here to say what's right or wrong. There's a lot of people with mixed emotions in the chat. I just ask for you all to keep peace and play nice and allow each other's thoughts without too much hate going on in the chat, because it's a tough topic.
Yeah, I think that's important, Mari. But we're not here to convince you to prep or not to prep. We're just reporting, but we're trying to do this in a responsible way because this is a delicate situation. Logan in the chat asked how he could call in. You have to be a YouTube paid member, $1.99 a month, sir, or go over to our Patreon and doing that. So, yeah, I know the man's got you by the short and curlies on that.
I don't know if I have.
But that is part of the perk of being a paid YouTube member of $1.99 a month. I mean, we're talking $2 here. You get access to the call-in shows. We'll be coming up with more perks as we get more content created for the channel. But this is not a full-time gig for us. Now, if the membership pay ever got to that point, well, then that's different. That would allow us more time to do these things, more perks, more benefits of becoming a paid member, even at $1.99. So, Logan, sign on up, buddy, and the number will be shot over to you instantly. But yeah, again, I want every caller to know that whoever does call in tonight, I want you guys to know that, like what Mari said, this is not to convince you one way or the other. We need to be respectful to everyone's feelings because, listen, you may be 30 years old, single, good shape, go to the gym, have a decent job. You're more than likely, you're a candidate that's going to just get sick and recover.
There's always exceptions to that.
There is,
for the most part,
but when you're dealing,
chances are pretty good.
Well, was someone like me? Now, I'm 42. I have diabetes. I've had pneumonia 3 times in my life, so I have a history of respiratory issues. I had childhood asthma up until the age of 13. So for me, this is a serious issue, and I'm going to pay very close attention to it. But
it probably adds to my anxiety because I know that you are, sort of borderline. You're a lot better than most people in that spectrum of challenge. But I'm in with this virus.
A little bit higher risk area,
yes,
compared to you and the children. The kids, you guys are fine. So, with that being said,
but I worry about like my mom, who's definitely in the age range, and she's not in the best health, so I'm scared to death for her.
I normally don't do this, but I'll do this once, and if we get a caller who calls in, then we'll have to cut away. But if I have your number in here, buddy,
you're gonna call Logan.
I'll call him.
Logan's always fun to chat with, and we haven't done that in a while.
He's never been. Yeah, so I'm getting ready to call another fellow YouTuber, and this guy has been around for a long, long time. I want to give a little bit of pre-story on him, but he's been around for a while, and he is really good at calling out people who may be doing things they shouldn't be doing, or helping determine on some things. His
nickname's the King of Truth.
King of Truth. He might help point out things that are frauds. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying he's right all the time, but he does bring up a lot of really good points, and he's been right a lot of times. So let's see if we can get old Logie on the phone here. Let's since all y'alls are being shy out there.
We do. We got a lot of shy guys. Isn't it funny?
I'm glad. I'm appreciative for the subscribership, but we're calling. This might be somebody else's number now, Logan. So this ought to be interesting. Is this the King of Truth, Logan running?
Hello?
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 Is this Logan running, the King of Truth?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we couldn't tell. It sounded like you were maybe. Okay.
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me? I don't think this is Logan's number anymore. Once again, we are the Jim Bidens of Joe Biden. See, I can't even pronounce the name right.
Well, doesn't Logan have your number? He can just call.
I mean,
if he's still watching. I didn't even see him in the chat. You got better eyes.
He said, "Call me." I thought we had your number. You changed your number. a lot.
He's like the international man of mystery.
He says, "Call me," but
no, he's more like Inspector Gadget, where like he uses the device and then it like explodes after the phone call.
I mean, the person that I just called, that's funny because I asked if they were the king of truth. He's like, yeah. I guess he thought I was just joking. I don't know. Yeah, well, Logan, I'd love to talk to you, buddy, but apparently I don't have your phone number. So, yeah. I asked for a doctor's question today, shocking procedure for a test. They had request kits, blood tests. Doctor says only CDC handles the kits. About? I'm just reading the chat here. He's talking about testing. Any tests done are done by CDC officials.
See, anyone listening to you would think you're just rattling off randomness.
The chat is
not in the chat.
The chat replay is live, so they'll be able to see it too.
Yeah, but if you're like me and don't pay attention to the chat, like, what's wrong with you?
Anyway, yeah, Edward, we're gonna hide that. Oh, that's 8675309.
You're gonna call Jenny?
Ha, Edward. Boy, this show is just getting out of control. I mean, now we're prank calling people in Texas.
I should put your phone number in the chat and see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Just kidding.
Yeah, someone just said we don't know if Fukushima had something to do with it. Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe, possibly. Who knows? I mean, that's like saying that Fukushima had something to do with climate change and everything. I'm not saying it didn't have anything to do with maybe the life in the ocean where that radiation was leaked. Certainly there's got to be some kind of disruption to that ecosystem, but I'm not a believer of Fukushima, climate change, Fukushima diseases, stuff like that, but it could be. Who knows? Hello, Wando. So, waiting for our first caller. We got Matt out there. We got all kinds of people. We know you have the number. Hello. Give us a call if you feel up to it. Tonight's open topic, grand solar minimum related, or if you want to talk about the coronavirus. I know that seems to be the number one thing people are talking about.
Cheryl messaged me right before the show talking about the additional people in Boston that were in this hotel. Or actually, I don't know the full gist, but they were at some conference. They had like 175 people, and now all of a sudden, all these people are turning out with the virus.
Yeah, and
she said they closed the roads down and sort of did like a parade down the street with ambulances to escort them.
I heard another, I think I had, I think it was Nebraska or Nevada. I know there was a report in Nevada where there was some action happening on a highway out there, and then I thought I heard something about Nebraska. So, we got to be careful about how we get our info.
We got a caller here. Let's take a look. Oh, it's Richard.
Well, hello, Richard. Let's go ahead and patch him on through here.
Let's see. Can you hear us?
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Richard. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
What do you think about all this? I'm going to put his name up on the thing, Jake.
Oh, go for it.
So what do you think about all this, Richard?
Well, I've thought about this a fair amount. I don't think there's anything you can do to stop this stuff from spreading. It's going to spread. The biggest problem that I've seen from watching what people have to say is that I think our medical community is woefully unprepared for this. They had a chance to get ahead of the curve, but they didn't. And that the very biggest problem we'll have is the same thing that they had in Wuhan, which is if we overwhelm the medical system and get our nurses and doctors sick and the hospitals are clogged from the front door out, we're going to have a major problem. If everybody's able to get top-notch care, then this is going to be kind of a non-event.
And
but
China...
As soon as you overrun the medical system,
China had it mostly sort of centralized in Wuhan, and they had that comfort of shipping thousands and tens of thousands of doctors into the centralized location to sort of come to their aid. Where are our doctors really going to come from when it's spread throughout the whole country like this? It's not like we have one epicenter, really. I mean, they're saying Washington is it, but clearly on the map, we're sort of inundated right now, and it hasn't even peaked. And they're not saying they've always said that this is going to peak April or May, most likely. Who knows when this would peak?
I don't think you're going to get away with going to apartment buildings and welding the doors shut out here. You have to understand they've taken steps in China to try to control this that just simply will not happen in the U.S.
So you think the loss may be higher in the U.S. in comparison?
I think the problem will be if we can control the spread and keep the overall numbers down at any given time, then the medical system will have a chance to deal with it. No matter how poorly prepared they are at the moment, they'll get their act together at some point. The problem is if you overwhelm the medical system, then you have a big problem, because now you'll have people dying that don't have coronavirus. They've had a heart attack, they've been in a car wreck, pick whatever disaster you want, People won't be able to get dialysis because there won't be any doctors, available.
Well, and that's just it. Like I said, I've tried to cover this with some kind of just a realization that this is going to spread. We've been warned about this, and again, I think it's good that we talk about this, because I think more people need to hear truth, and also at the same time, they need to understand that it's okay to be nervous about this, but at the same time, most of us are already preppers that follow this type of stuff. So, and Cheryl asked a great question in the chat: has anybody else noticed some holes in their GSM prep because of this virus?
Yeah,
I know, Mara, you did.
It gives you a good objective way to just sit back and be like, do I have everything I need? And I'll tell you, I sit back and I'm like, what would it take? Most of these people in China are quarantined almost a month and a half. And I'm like, what would it take? What do I need? It really made me sort of zoom out and think about all the stuff, and then couple that with the supply concerns. We're starting to get a lot of video and reports of our ports being empty, and we're going to be experiencing supply issues way more than you can imagine. And you're already starting to see it, but it's nothing in comparison what it's going to be this time next month. We are going to suffer for some massive supply issues. There's already people reporting to us. They're going to the pharmacy. They're trying to renew their prescriptions to get stocked up, and there's no prescriptions to be had for some of the medications.
That's not everywhere.
It's not everywhere, and it's not every medicinal product, but the fact is the supply issues are already showing up. Are people hoarding more than they should? Most likely, and that does suck. But that's also a reminder it's so important to be prepared the best you can at any point, regardless of what the actual situation is. It was an interesting thing to sort of zoom out. I was like, all right, everyone's banking on water. What if we don't have enough water? Well, you look to China and you're like, okay, well, it seems like they still have their sewage and water is working. they're having, there's certain things you sort of need to restructure and prioritize. What's a priority? Food definitely is a priority. I redid our whole freezer, like a box of Tetris, and reassessed my canned goods and rotated them and picked up some new stuff. So it definitely made me look, especially at our OTC situation with medicinal stuff. It looks like we have another caller.
Yeah, before we let you go, Richard, I was just going to ask you, do you have a lot of involvement in the public, or do you pretty much stay to yourself anyway?
Well, I guess I'm on quarantine. It's I now understand it's 10 miles to the nearest person from where I am, and I stay on the ranch. Maybe once a week, once every 10 days, I might go to town to pick some stuff up. So, the issue of quarantine for me is I've been in quarantine for years, so I'm not really worried about it.
That makes me happy to hear that you're one of the ones that doesn't have to come in contact on a daily basis. So that's good to know. That eases my mind a little bit, Richard. So we'll probably keep in more contact as time moves along here. Look, I hope for the best. I hope this doesn't spread, but we have to be ready for it to spread. And I think it's already rearing its ugly head as we speak right now. So, Richard, thank you for calling in tonight. We really appreciate your contribution to this channel.
Yeah, I have one last thing. You don't mind
Sure.
about keeping a diary. No matter how old-fashioned you think that is, you have no idea how much help it might be to somebody 100 years from now facing the same thing.
Man, you
might go look at the diaries of the people that survived the Spanish flu.
You are absolutely correct on that, Richard. Nothing wrong or juvenile about keeping a diary, not during these times. So point well taken for sure.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you, Rich.
Richard. Good hearing from you. All right,
bye-bye.
Let's bring on Cheryl. Cheryl, I was just chatting with on Facebook Messenger, and she clued me into what was going on in Boston. Let's see if I can get her on.
Logan, hang in there, buddy. We'll get to you here soon.
Hello, Cheryl.
Hey, Mari. Hey, Jake.
Hello,
How you doing?
How you doing, Cheryl?
I'm okay. Well, listen, I really just called in to talk about how this is emphasizing to me what I have and what I don't have, but then you guys were already talking about when I called in, so then I didn't want to hang up, so here I am. But it has made me, it has made me really rethink a number of things, and where I think I've got a certain amount for a certain amount of time, it really... I think sometimes you overestimate what you really do have, or maybe how long it will last you. And so I've had to go back and rethink all my preps just in light of the GSM and how much I might be using if I just stay totally in the house and don't go shopping for a couple of months or something. So I think that really just made me sit down and just rethink everything as far as prepping.
Yeah, and I think it put Mari into go mode for sure. We kind of been dragging our feet with our prep, and just when this situation hit, we kind of looked at each other, and she assessed what we had, and I think she's done a pretty good job of helping us. Let's just say that we're in pretty good shape if this is a couple of weeks or so. But man, we really need to think long term, I guess, as well after this, because we will come back from this, and this is not going to wipe us out or anything like that. I hope it doesn't anyway. But I'm confident that we'll get a handle on this as it spreads. We'll get sick. I'm sure there'll be recoveries. There will be some deaths. But the main thing, in my opinion, right now is I want to make sure that everyone stays calm and vigilant as possible. Because we don't want to panic buy. We don't want to do that just yet, do we? I mean, what do you think?
Well, only if it's white chocolate.
White chocolate.
I don't have a problem panic buying white chocolate. I don't know. Actually, I don't quite get the whole water and the toilet paper thing.
Well, toilet paper, yes.
I don't understand it. Nobody's losing their water, and the toilet paper amounts that they're getting. I don't know what you could do with that. You could wrap your house in it probably. They've got so much of it going.
Some people.
It's just amazing.
I've seen people with pallets. You wouldn't believe. So it's definitely interesting how people are prioritizing their prepping supplies. I think probably the thing I would ask people to be prepared most for is definitely just your basics. Do you have Tylenol and ibuprofen? Because those are starting to really dwindle quickly. So if you're wondering where to start, go stock up on a few bottles of that. Because how awful would that be if you're in quarantine and you can't even treat a fever?
Right.
I think the Tylenol's already on the short list of what I might have heard. I don't know if that's true or not. But I mean, even in Australia, they make toilet paper in Australia. They don't import it. They're selling out of it. Oh my gosh!
So we can confirm. We want to breaking news that Washington University has canceled classes due to the virus. And Washington University is a pretty big school. It's a pretty big college. So that's kind of a big deal. We didn't mean to interrupt you there, but one of our subscribers here in the chat here, Underground Dog, or Underground West, I should say, he broke it in the chat. I didn't hear about it. Mari just vetted it. So yeah, this is good though. Look what Japan did. Japan canceled school for a few weeks. They started doing their travel bans a couple of weeks ago. And they're sitting at like 400 cases right now, but they were also sitting at 200 for a long time. So it's possible by taking these drastic measures, it might help with the spread. But Mari made a good point earlier that these folks in China that are being quarantined, the new cases, aren't getting counted because they're being kept in hotels instead of hospitals.
They're also keeping them in universities as well.
So they're not being properly counted. So there's all kinds of things that we could be worried about. Obviously, the numbers to some of us don't add up. Right now, Japan's sitting at 420 cases, and I think they've gained about 200 cases in the last 5 days, which has gone up still. But like I said, from where they started, it looked like it was going to run rampant. And again, we're just in the beginning phases. So actually, that just updated to 420.
I would like to say Beyond the Matrix seems like he doesn't want us to talk about coronavirus. And I get that there's a lot of people that don't. But to me, it's very relevant to get people to put their prepper hats on and really think about how they are preparing. Of course, getting ready for GSM and the challenges we face with our weather, of course. That's why we're on here talking about it. Yeah. We're trying to, talk about how to prioritize our prepping. This is more than just the coronavirus. This is about preparedness and being ready for anything at any time. We've always said that. Prepare for the worst and just hope for the best and have a positive attitude. I totally agree with that. But this is going to open a lot of people's eyes in the whole world, the whole worldwide. Everyone's watching what's going on with this virus. And it brings a great discussion point to bring to people, about prepping, being prepared. And of course, you could open the conversation up into the grand solar minimum and how cosmic rays can mutate viruses. This virus has already mutated into 2 different forms, and I've been reading there's all different kinds of variations. It's a very unstable virus.
Cheryl, let me ask you.
Unknowns.
Let me ask you if where you live says you need to stay home for 2 to 3 weeks, are you ready?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm lucky because I don't have any close neighbors, so if I want to run around out there with or without clothes, I can do it. Sorry.
That's all right.
Put that in there.
That's all right.
No, actually, you know what? The thing that really makes me mad about it, there's 2 things I take away from this, is that if every country had been honest about this, the rest of us could have learned faster from it and maybe been more prepared. And that's one of my big takeaways. But the other one is just how in my face this has been as far as my own prep for long-term GSM. And so it's made me really rethink that and reorganize and plan better, I think.
It gives you a good insight into how your government responds to horrible situations as well. And it gives you a
Yeah.
good perspective to gauge, okay, they obviously have no clue and seem pretty ignorant. And one person saying this, I don't know if they're playing good cop, bad cop just to confuse people on purpose or what. It seems like a big hot mess. And the bottom line is, fend for yourself because there's too many unknowns. You can't say that this virus is nothing, and you can't say that it's gonna just be the end of the world either. So you have to be rational, and you have to just say, zoom out and fend for yourself, and just do the best you can to prepare for anything. Period.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll let you guys go. Next caller.
All right. See you, Cheryl. Thank you for calling in.
Thank
We
you,
appreciate
Cheryl.
it. So
Okay, later, guys.
Bye.
that, and that brings me to the point too about how me and you have talked about this a couple times with Trump and his
Stupid statements.
well, not stupid. It's like I've told you. Look, he is the leader of the free world, and he is trying to cling on to what sanity this country has left until this thing really grows.
Is desperately trying
So he is just trying to, he knows it's going to happen. He is trying to hold on as long as possible.
It can't be easy. It can't
No,
be
it
easy.
can't.
It can't.
Absolutely not.
Because, how do you try to keep a straight face knowing that this is going to really, really overwhelm our whole healthcare system?
All right, now brace yourself. I have the actual number now. We are going to call. We're going to try this again, Mr. Logan. Folks, be prepared. He calls it how he sees it. So, and again, this is just to prove we are objective, but we could also be civil as well. So, all right, let's see if we can get old Logan here. It's been a long time. I hope my phone doesn't die.
Well, I could go grab a charger for you. What percentage? Oh, you're in the red.
Yeah, I'm in the red.
Oh, boy. All right, well, let me go see what I can do for you, Jake. I'll be right back. Can you fly solo?
Yes.
For a bet?
Hello, can I speak to the King of Truth, Logan Running, please?
Hey, Jake.
Oh, there he is.
How's it going tonight?
I might have a fever, but from what I hear, I keep going through. I don't know.
Well,
I'm glad you called. I have some actual, real information from an actual, real doctor, not somebody that plays one on TV or the YouTube. And I think it's really important. Everybody should hear it.
well,
Are you there?
let's hear what you got here, big guy.
Okay. As you well know, we're not going to go into the details or whatever, but I have clients of people that have, let's say, aqua merchandise or whatever that they bring to quite regularly. So I have quite a clientele of all kinds of different people, doctors, lawyers, blah, blah, blah. And so, I happen to know one for a couple of years because I've been doing some work for him or whatever. And he happened to show up this morning. And I got to ask him a few questions about the coronavirus situation or whatever. He told me what the protocol is for testing people for coronavirus is the same as the protocol that all hospitals used during the SARS outbreak or whatever. And let's go back a little bit further to the dawn of the time of AIDS. That these were the procedures. I'm fixing to tell you how they do it. First of all, you're sick.
People are having
And
problems.
you feel sick, and you think you're going to go down to the hospital or whatever. When you arrive down at the hospital, you tell them your symptoms, they take your vitals. You'll be tested for everything that they know of. And that if you don't come up under something that they already know of, then they send your vitals to, let's say, the officials of the CDC. I couldn't say this that then for sure. It's probably a brokerage type thing. There's a middleman, between the actual office of CDC or whatever. But they'll have to request a CDC official test or whatever. Now, this isn't over the internet or something like that. An actual
person, a personnel from the CDC or whatever, hand carries these tests, comes with them to the hospital. So at this point, listen carefully, at this point, everyone that has been confirmed as a positive for the coronavirus was a test administered by CDC personnel only. The hospitals do not have these test kits, so don't expect to walk in there and walk back out knowing one way or another. The standard, now this is where it gets shocking. The standard procedure is that after your vitals have been sent, you're sent home. Depending on your symptoms or whatever, but you're sent home to wait for
Hey, Logan. Is there any way you can back away from the phone microphone? People are complaining they can't understand that it's coming in too muffled.
How's that?
Much better.
Oh, I was using this phone like you put a microphone like I used to do live shows, and man, that just don't work.
So back up to the part where you were explaining the protocol where CDC administers a test because the tests aren't in the hospitals.
Yes, the problem here is that it's so new, especially to the United States. Now, if we're to believe that this started just a couple of months ago, like in December or whatever, that makes it super brand new. Still in the package, brand new. So there isn't a whole bunch of tests made up by a laboratory to spread out across the countryside. So the tests are accompanied by personnel to the target. It's as simple as that. And of course, the bottom line here is, people, that the majority of the people that are now infected with coronavirus have not been diagnosed and are still out there walking around all over the place.
Wow.
Because a lot of them, as we saw from the couple, the married newlywed couple, that you can sit right there in the middle of the virus and have it and get no symptoms and blah, blah, blah. But you can carry it around to your family members or to school and the such for 17 to 24 days.
Wow. And do you think that today's President Trump signing that $8.3 billion bill for money towards fighting coronavirus, do you think that comes too late? So because basically what you're saying is that these hospitals were never equipped with the test in the first place. Now we're going to get the funds to have the test. Supposedly there's 1 million of them that are being rushed to many state hospitals across the country, but 1 million, it seems like a small number compared to what the possibility.
No, I would say that's inaccurate because it takes a long time to make the test. That if they're going to send out 1 million of them now, then they started on them a month ago. I don't think so.
Wow.
Yeah, because there's some kind of
lip service, Jake.
They have to test the test before, like when they get them in as well.
So this is probably a little bit worse than people really think because they see that bill being signed. They think, okay, because I was one of those people that said, all right, well, help's on the way. $8.3 billion just got injected. The test will be there tomorrow on the doorstep. That's what they want you to think.
No, I got the gist that it's going to take probably 2 to 3 weeks at least for us to see some major numbers.
To the AIDS epidemic. Before there was an AIDS epidemic, AIDS spread throughout a certain community really fast because there was no way to test for it. This is exactly the same thing. That, something so new and so secretive, I want you to know that at this point, the Chinese are not cooperating or giving up any information that they know about their virus. And that's not helping either.
Right.
Take Cheryl off and put King of Truth.
Yeah, we'll change the name Logan. Here. We'll put
totally not
I don't hold you guys up and you got a bunch to talk about. We should talk about the weather sometime, boy. You wouldn't like what I say. It's that it feels like it's summertime year round over here, so I'm not a good example.
Well, and I get that. We had a lot of pushback this year for that, but I tried to explain the best that I could that, meanwhile, yes, the UK and the United States saw an average, maybe a below average winter in some spots, but the Middle East sure got walloped. We were talking about 20 feet of snow in Turkey just a couple of weeks ago. Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, areas that were getting snow that aren't used to seeing heavy snow anyway. So I've always said that GSM is regional. And it doesn't surprise me that we saw the temperatures we saw now because I was explained. You got to also factor in El Nino, Logan. That had a delayed effect. Look at March of 2016. You'll notice that the UAA temperatures peaked out at 0.77. And then due to the cycle, we saw temperatures drop once again. Well, that was also in 2015 a delayed effect from an El Nino, which we also had an El Nino, a weak one, but we had one throughout 2019. So again, I'm not trying to dodge around that because I do remember our conversation, and you're right. I mean, one of the things I told you to look out for, longer and colder winters. Well, let's think about that for a minute. Winter started in September of 29th in Montana, and that's pretty early. We had 4 feet of snow fall in one snowstorm. And then in October, we had more Northern Plains snowstorms to talk about. Hell, even Texas got some snow early on this year. So we've seen a long duration of freezing temperatures since early October all the way till right about late February till now. We're starting to see a lot more spring-like temperatures pop up all over the states. But I still think that winter was pretty much harsh for other parts of the world. We still had way more than average snow mass in the northern hemisphere for the winter. So it wasn't a total wash, but I do see your point. I can see where you're looking at with the stink eye right now.
Well, no, I'm not. Jake, look, what is Groundhog Day all about?
I don't know. It's like another.
I'll just sum it up because I'm already headed somewhere. Is that the winter varies and sometimes could be up to 6 weeks longer or shorter, and that's the whole scheme of the Groundhog Day event is trying to guess if it's going to be a little longer this year or what.
So smart guess to say that we're going to get an early spring just because, we did see some winter weather all the way as far back as late September, early October. So that might be the reason why we are getting spring type temperatures on time or just a little bit earlier. So who knows? But yeah, we will definitely have to I'd love to have a conversation about this because I think it's important to have a healthy debate. There's nothing wrong with anyone disagreeing with what we're talking about. And I think it's fair to have both sides. I'm not saying you're totally debunking this, but I can.
I'm not. Look, don't get me wrong, and I'm not pointing fingers here. We never know about these things.
Right.
You're watching the situation. So it's like you and Maverick Star, and everybody else is watching something else.
Well, we appreciate that. Did you want to add anything else before we let you go? Again, I appreciate the insight on the testing because I wasn't even clear on that myself.
Well, I guess if I had to sign off to the country or whatever, I would go over the. I guess the most important details is that, right now for maybe a month or two, I wouldn't go and hang out with a bunch of people. I don't care who they are. I wouldn't go hang out with a bunch of people. That means getting on a bus, getting on an airplane, going on vacation, blah, blah, blah. You can wait a little while. But don't touch your face if you go out in public. The doctor told me specifically, this virus goes through your head. It goes in your ear, goes in your nose, goes in your eyes, goes in your mouth. And how does it most of the time get there? It comes off of your hand. So get that finger out of that nose, Jake.
Absolutely. And that now I understand why Trump, I heard the quotables of the week, Trump's quote, "I haven't touched my face in weeks. I miss my face." That's what he said. Now I understand where he's getting that from. And thanks.
I wanted to take just one last thing here. I'm now onto the Logan running bag bag over your head with a drawstring, and it's guaranteed to save you from coronavirus. You just put it over your head and pull it down real tight.
Well, thank you for the call, Logan, and we'll talk again. And next time we'll make it more weather, because like I said, that would be a great topic.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for calling me up, man. And the check's in the mail, all right?
No, thank you, Logan. We'll see you, bud.
Take it easy.
All right.
God
So
love Logan.
listen,
Always good for a laugh.
but you know, the one thing about Logan too is that he is what do you call it? A pathological fence sitter, and
He's
we
good.
need
That's
more.
what I like.
Yeah,
I
we
like
need
that
more of
about
that
Logan.
though. But he's got one foot in the pool when it comes to GSM. So at least he's thinking about it. And that to me, like,
It's good to be zoomed out and objective and not even
Right.
latch onto a certain concept.
Yep.
Absolutely.
the majority of the people, it's hard to pull people that are AGW side. A lot of people believe that global warming is a real thing, that man-made climate change is very real. And some folks look at GSM as hogwash. But the one thing you have to know about grand solar minimum is that it is not an overnight sensation. It is a long duration period of a cycle that takes time. But I can tell you right now, the things that Lee Wheelbarger taught me, the things that other people in the community like Starman and Scott Rose, Valentina Zarkova, and John Casey and Joe Bastardi, and the list goes on and on and on. Those people have also taught us things, and everything that they've told us about GSM has been true. So, and there's a lot of people that correlate that information and find it through different styles of research. That's why I think Mari and I are true believers of the sun causing climate change, the sun's cycles impact Earth's climate, and you have to take into consideration with that as there are delayed effects from natural cycles. So, well, I think we had a productive call. Sorry for those of you who didn't want to talk about Corona. We understand this is a Grand Solar Minimum channel, but you also have to take into consideration that we've had people like Sasha Dobler and Matthew Stein on here where we've talked about prepping for things of this nature.
Pandemics.
Yep. So it is part of, like it or not, this is a part of GSM. This is a part of it.
A lot of our subscribers want to talk about it, or bare minimum, just vent.
That's it. That's all we're here for, too.
I got a little overwhelmed with all the coronavirus in our Facebook group, and I was like, guys, can we scale it back a bit? And it's hard to do because there's new information coming out all the time, and it's like, it's hard to stay away from. So we just have to accept it as a part of our daily lives now and deal with it, and definitely just use it as a discussion point to our preparations for what's ahead over the next 3 decades. And, I can't wait to have a chat with Valentina. I'll find out on Sunday. It's insane to me that...
less, Brandon. Less governments. That? He said, do we need more governments or less? And I said less.
I think less is more in that case. Because right now, everyone's pointing the finger at everyone. There's a ton of people that want to blame Trump. I'm more apt to blame the CDC on this because this is their job to manage and maintain this. And that's not necessarily all. Trump can't just make magic happen like that instantaneously. The CDC was supposed to manage this, and I feel like they've dropped the ball. I think we should have used the other test kits, but they didn't want to, and that was a weak spot for us, and here we are, Swiss cheese. So,
and one more thing before we go, I guess the only thing that really concerns me about what we talked about with Logan is that he just opened my eyes on a perspective of things like, yeah, we did just sign a bill, and we will have help on the way, but these things do take time. And that's concerning because I remember when we were talking about 226 cases in Japan, or not Japan, but China, and 33 million people were on lockdown. And next thing you know, that shot up real fast. It was 1,500 within a week after that. It was 3,000 after 2 weeks. And then it just kept going up and up and up and up. So let's hope that we are able to address this in time. Let's hope that this funding and this money that will help us get the test and the kits and the supplies that we need for fighting this virus and help finding out who has it and who doesn't have it. Mari, would you like to add anything before we wrap it up for tonight?
Not really. Just stock up what you can. I know it's overwhelming because you wanna have this brilliant supply. You want shelves stocked and have like this dream prepper haven. But the reality is, for a lot of people, that's not the case. Focus on what you can do, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, whatever. Try to get a good rounded supply of medication and food, and just be smart about where you're immersing yourself in public and how you handle yourself while you're in public. That consciousness of keeping your hands clean, not touching your face, that kind of stuff, very relevant, very tricky for a lot of people, especially with kids. So just stay safe, everyone, and we will be back. When are we going to be back next week?
Monday morning with our Grand Solar Minimum update. We might have a live chat over the weekend to kind of help everyone just say hello. If any breaking news does happen, we will break in through live with a report. But right now, we will see you guys on Monday morning with the next Grand Solar Minimum update. Unless breaking news happens, then we will be on the air live reporting on this situation, whether it's virus or weather related or Grand Solar Minimum related. Either way, Maria's leaving you with this image before we sign off, guys. So thank you for tuning into the Grand Solar Minimum. We hope
it's a good time to be vegan.
I guess so. We will talk soon, folks. Take care.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.